have marvelous relationships with industry. I shared the number earlier that I think it's more than 750 different grants and contracts and relationships with industry. And those relationships go from the very small to very significant, collaborative, long-term relationships. And I think that many people don't appreciate all of the ways that they can work with us strategically at MIT to advance the objectives of their organization. So some examples that I can provide to you are that in many companies, you have to go pretty high up the corporate ladder before you find the person that both human resources and research report to. And often you can get great benefit from thinking about those two things in a common frame. And that's what we do at MIT, right? We're an educational institution, so one way to think about us is that sort of human resources development, right? We're bringing people in and we're giving them marvelous experiences here. And we're a research university, so a lot of that at the undergrad and the graduate level is done through research, much of which is funded with industry. But many companies that come to us will think first, well, this is a way that I can have some really bright students and faculty members work on a problem that's important to me. But often what's most important to those companies is not the solution to that problem, but how do they identify and attract great talent? In other words, how do they hire people who are graduating from MIT? And we can work very strategically with companies to promote those kinds of interactions. And often that's not written into a particular contract. I'll give an example with one company that, as an Aero and Astro faculty member, I had a lot of relationships with. That's Boeing. Right? So we had a faculty member who we hired, and before coming on the faculty, she wanted to spend some time in industry, getting an understanding of the industry problems. So I called up the chief technical officer for Boeing, because we have this very strong relationship between Boeing and MIT. And I said, boy, could you provide an opportunity where this young faculty member could spend 9 months at Boeing, hire her for her entire life, but you could hire her for 9 months, and then she would come back to MIT, but you'd have this lifelong relationship with her and her students, and she would understand what your problems are, and it would be a stronger relationship. And so they did that. We've done that a couple different times with different companies, and it's been very, very fruitful, but it's a way of thinking strategically. It's not thinking about, well, what research will I have produced this year on this contract, but it's thinking about building a long-term relationship that involves faculty and students that would have benefits in the next 10, 15, 20 years. For companies who are interested in working with us that way, longer, stronger collaborations with us tend to be more valuable for MIT and for the companies. Longer strategic relationships where we can connect in many different ways through everything. The connections involve, I mentioned this particular one where a new faculty member would go and spend time in industry before coming to MIT, but we have people from industry coming and teaching in MIT courses. We have people from MIT coming and teaching in industry. We have obviously funded research. We have industry getting involved in some of our outreach efforts because they think very long term about some of the human resource objectives that they have. So there's a whole series of things that we can do collaboratively that goes beyond solving the research problem of the moment. And it's often those other things that come with a longer term strategic partnership with companies. So those are often the best for us, not exclusively, but often, and they're often very, very valuable and fruitful for companies that come and work with us. So we have a lot of experience in constructing things like that serve the needs of various companies.